Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I heard from a couple more people, so I expect they will be joining. Um, hello, Hannah. Welcome. Nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you for joining us. And Jody, I see another new name, so welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We will get started as we always do with a quick meditation. Here's my meditation bowl. To help us create a sacred space and leave behind the outside world for this hour of being together. So please just close your eyes, taking a deep breath through the nose and hold, and exit through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you continue to breathe in and out at your own pace, if thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car pass by on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we are listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. I always love it when I open my eyes and I see other people who've joined us, like Frank and Linda and Joanne during the break. It's kind of like my little Elijah moment, like open your eyes and boom, there he is. So welcome to all of you. Today is our second week where we're focusing on the soul trait of enthusiasm. And our opening prompt today, enthusiasm, if you're new to Mussar, we'll get into the definition of that, but it's about alacrity. And one of my favorite enthusiasm mantras is run to do good. So I would just love to hear from you, like what are some of the things that you kind of run to do? And what might this mean to you? Yeah, Joanne. Please remember to unmute.
So because I had cancer 10 years ago, I went to Gilda's Club and they have a networking meeting and other classes online. So I volunteered to like stuff envelopes from time to time, and the woman who kind of organizes the place asked for volunteers. I went there this week. Maybe in January, once a week, I'll come in to help like straighten the place out. We still don't know what's happening. And then yesterday I ordered a meal for this family. The wife just had a baby. Unfortunately, the wife is at her brother's house in Long Island because the other two kids had COVID, so she had to be separated. But I ordered a meal for them and brought it to them today. And so I try to do things like that in the range. meals for other people who are sick and check in with people. That's the kind of stuff I like to do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hear from Karen and then from Jody.
So one night last week, I was sharing a few words at a graduation ceremony, and the people in the room were all Jewish. And so my words were really about Zerzut and enthusiasm, that they should go back to this new level of work with an enthusiasm that would enhance and deepen their commitment to what they do and to those people who they are working with and to others who may be interested. And it was just really well received. And I was really glad to be able to bring this Jewish soul trait to, I want to say words of wisdom, but I feel that I don't really feel ready to have wisdom, but to have shared that at this graduation ceremony, that they should return to their new positions with Zerzut, with an enthusiasm to adorn what they will be doing.
Well, that's wonderful, Karen. Thank you for sharing that. And Israel Salanter, who was the head of the Mussar movement in Lithuania in the 19th century, he wrote a famous letter where he said, once you've started to learn Mussar, you kind of have an obligation to pass on Mussar to other people. And so here you were, passing on something that we talked about last week to this group of graduating folks. So that's really wonderful. Thank you.
It is so hard not to do this. This is my second year of really delving in here. And I said to somebody recently that this is my new connection maybe to Judaism. It's time appropriate. This is my way of growing as a person, and Jewishly, I don't know how long, but this is sort of the next stage that Mussar is guiding me through this right now.
Wonderful. Great. Well, I'm so glad you're here to join us, and as we're all on this journey together. Jody, welcome. It's nice that you tried to join us today. How does this sentence reach you?
Well, there are two things I would like to say about enthusiasm. One is that I spent the majority of my career in one industry, so I knew a lot of people at various generational levels. And at various times, these people passed away. And the single characteristic that joined the feeling of loss in our industry that all these people shared was a high level of enthusiasm. It was just, all of these people were enthusiastic beyond the normal level, and that energy that they had, people absorbed it, and they lifted people up with that energy, and they were beloved for that. And it was so interesting to see that. And it didn't matter what age they were, what stage they were, what kind of job they had. If they had that very special energy, I used to call it insane enthusiasm, but I don't call it that anymore. Anyway, I wanted to share that. I think it is a trait that is so precious that it's something that I would like to cultivate. And in my work, my job was to be authoritative. So I sort of have a stiff demeanor. And like one time I was walking down Madison Avenue and a guy looked at me and said, "Smile, it can't be that bad." So anyway, I'm all behind enthusiasm. The other thing that's happened to me that was very strange, this week, a friend called me and said her friend was dying. And would I please put together a selection of prayers for her to take to the hospice and for her support network to pray at her bedside.
Hmm.
And so I did it. And they were happy with what I picked out and everything. And I hate to say this, but I like doing it. And I feel sort of guilty. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you, Jody. And I guess I have two comments. One is after my second comment, if you want to share the names of the couple of people with enthusiasm. We have this saying in Judaism, may their memory be a blessing. And when we hear their names and these sort of traits, that's a way that we can make their memories a blessing. And I know a lot of people who, in my school, who are chaplains or who are rabbis and officiating at their first funeral. And a lot of people find it extremely rewarding and fulfilling being able to bring comfort to people in that way. And so for you, it sounds like it's the first time that you've had this experience, and it's sounding like it's having a very powerful impact on you to do that. And
It was completely out of left field. And it's kind of weird that she called me. We don't know each other that well. We're like longtime acquaintances, but not close friends. And I was so happy to be asked to do that. And I just threw myself right into it.
That is what Zerazut is all about, is throwing yourself in, when we're called upon by whatever or whomever, to sometimes throwing yourself in is the right thing to do. Okay, anyone else would they like to comment or share something? Or maybe how enthusiasm has shown up for them in the last week. Carol, I see you unmuting.
Yeah. Before I do this, I lead the spirituality group at Beth Am. We're on Zoom. We're kind of permanently on Zoom until things change. But even though I started the day not feeling very well, just feeling really tired and icky, every time I go to this group, it's like, I'm so happy to be there. And I hope that enthusiasm rubs off on my fellow scholars, because they're wonderful, wonderful human beings. And I think, I don't know if they make me more enthusiastic or if they're playing off of me, but they all seem very, very engaged. And even though we've got one much older guy who he dozes off once in a while, he's still enthusiastic when he's engaged. So to me, that's really exciting that we have this enthusiastic study group. It's like this one. Everybody's enthusiastic here too. My Thursdays are great that way. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Linda.
I think that it's somewhat of an art to know how to temper one's enthusiasm based on what you're dealing with other people, because I may be in left field, but it seems like if a person is really suffering, I don't want a certain level of enthusiasm, compassion, caring, but it can really feel ungenuine if you don't know how to do it.
Well, thank you, Linda. It's such an important part of our Mussar practice is learning these skills and learning when the right time is for us to, be enthusiastic either in our affect or in the energy we put in. And in fact, Maimonides wrote a wonderful piece about how to visit a sick person. And one of the things that he wrote was, don't be Pollyanna. Don't go in and say, oh, you're going to be okay, when the person's, clearly on hospice. That's not a helpful thing to say. So, I thank you for bringing that in today. Hi, Phyllis, welcome. Anyone else care to comment? Yeah, Frank and then Paul? No? Okay, so Paul.
So I work with at a software company in Cambridge, Mass, and we're experiencing, I think there's a term they have, it's a pandemic, finding your new job. A lot of people had hung on to staying with us. We're a startup company, so, it can be pretty intense, and people there are usually, this is their first job coming out of school, so they've been leaving quite a bit. So there's one person in particular who I've gotten to be close with, and she had told me that she was looking at some other work. And the first few months when this was happening, it was really, every time somebody was a friend, it was really hard. It was like a little death. But by now I'm feeling like, okay, I can be okay with this. And in particular, when she told me last night that she had accepted an offer at a new position, a job, it was really great. It felt great to just be very enthusiastic for her. That I'm just really, really glad for her, because I know that making a decision like this is hard when she's gotten to be good friends with so many people at a company. And leaving, feels like sometimes you're leaving, a community, which she is. But, it felt really good to feel that genuineness come out, being very enthusiastic for her in that moment. So,
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. That reminds me of one of the things we talked about last week, which is enthusiasm being an ornament to other soul traits, and having sort of compassion for her and understanding and honoring her decision, and just being able to kind of show up in a very energetic way and non-judgmental way and supportive way. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let's so Carol asked in the chat, is optimism always linked to enthusiasm? I don't know, is my short answer. It's a good question. But let's percolate on that.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's why I put it out there.
All right.
Okay. Joanne?
Yeah, I put an answer in the chat. I think it would be difficult to be enthusiastic without being optimistic about the efficacy of what you're doing, like, that it's going to have some positive effect, even if it's a negative situation that you have to deal with.
Sort of makes me think about, I have my Hebrew final coming up on Sunday, and I had this sling on for 6 weeks, and really for a month, I was not making a lot of progress in Hebrew. I was making a little bit, but as we're coming into this final, I'm way behind, and I am optimistic that I will be okay. And I'm going into this test with, energy, but I'm not optimistic. Like if I were being graded, I'm not sure I would get a great grade on this test, but I know that with a month off, I will catch up. I will be okay in the end. So sort of, it depends how you define optimism. I kept this, so I'm waxing incoherent, but it's a very interesting way to think about. Yeah, Karen.
To add to that, maybe another question is, do we associate enthusiasm with drive? And are drive and optimism the same thing? Because, when I think about compassion and holding back, I'm still focusing on enthusiasm, just what the level is. And if the enthusiasm is not necessarily being sprite and lively, but rather more deeply committed, that sometimes enthusiasm might be the drive to do the best that you can do in light of the circumstances. It just doesn't have to be lively.
Yeah, I
So-
would say that's a good take. And as I continue to percolate on this, and then maybe we'll start to move on, I would say that I would call optimism a different soul trait, and I would call it a soul trait in and of itself. Because if you have too much optimism or too little optimism, is unhealthy. So it's finding that correct amount of optimism. You don't want to be flying the plane in the rainstorm without any equipment saying we'll get down somehow. That's not the right time for optimism. That's the time for realism and taking the appropriate steps. So okay. So let's see. So we have, we've covered a lot of things here today. For the people who are newer to the group, I want to introduce this idea of the soul trait spectrum, just as I was talking about with optimism. With enthusiasm, if we're having too little, we can get into what might be called being slothful or lazy. Even though it's my slide, I don't really like laziness, but it's sort of a lack of energy, a lack of, if it really is too little, it could be considered laziness. And too much, we can get into this kind of rash, frenetic busyness. So kind of in this sort of balanced place, I'm introducing this sentence and a different mantra, which is making the most of each moment, which feels a little bit related to what Karen was just talking about. But I'm wondering, what does that mean to the group? Making the most of each moment. And I'm so sorry, my cat is begging to get out of the room here. I'm just going to let him out. I shall run to let the cat out of the room. Okay, he is taken care of. So making the most of each moment. What do we make of that? Yeah, Bonnie.
I think it means to be present. I have 8 grandchildren. Only one of them lives in this area, even though I raised all 4 of them in Silicon Valley. And once a week, we have a family Zoom. My grandkids have just about reached the end of their rope with this family Zoom. It's been going on since April of 20. I don't blame them, but it's the only way I get to see them. And so I need to constantly say, they're doing this for me. They're really not doing it for each other. Although some of them really get along very well. And so they like teasing each other on the Zoom, but they're doing it for me. And so I need to be present. I need them to know how much I love them and miss them, because normally I would see them every 3 months. I'd be on a plane to Cleveland. I'd be on a plane to Indianapolis. I mean, that's, and then I bring them together every year. And they haven't been together since Thanksgiving of 19. So it's been really, really hard for me not being with them. And so, although there are days that I'd like to, it's 4 o'clock, it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, and like you, I've been in this, cast now for 4 weeks. You've been in yours for 6 weeks, but I have been there, so I understand that. I have to think of it in terms of, I've done this for 4 weeks. It's getting better. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to be back in the swing. I can drive. I haven't been able to drive for 4 weeks. I can drive now. So I just think it's being present.
Yeah.
And also looking at the level of things and saying, is this really such a big deal? So.
Thank you, Bonnie. That's a lot of great stuff in there. I will not repeat it because you said it so well. Karen. Karen, your hand is raised. I don't know if you want to.
My apologies.
Oh, okay. All right. So as we one of the things that we often do is we go into breakout rooms, again, for the people who are new. So, so I'm going to share our, we're working our way up towards that. And let's see. Oops. And so we've talked about running to maybe on the, we have a couple different quotes here. And maybe if someone wants to unmute and pick one of these that really speaks to them and read it out loud.
Wake up, my brothers. A guest you've never seen has arrived. Once he leaves, we'll never see him again. With this guest today, Red Dove Bear of Radishut.
Thank you. So why did you pick that one, Joanne? What speaks to you about it?
I mean, the thing is that life is so fleeting, and, letting a day go by when you haven't had a plan for it or have something to accomplish or something good to do for somebody, it's like a wasted day.
Thank you. Hannah, I saw you turn your camera on. Did you want to join? Do you have a comment for us?
Greg, can you put those 3 back up?
You bet. Bonnie was talking about being present before, and there's 2 ways of thinking about being present. One is like, okay, every week at this time, I'm going to show up, and it's something that's scheduled, so I'm going to be there. And there's another way of being present, which I think this first one speaks to me about, which is, when today, whatever that moment arrives, we can choose to be present for that moment, whatever it may be, or we can kind of sleepwalk through that moment. We can say, oh, I wish this wasn't the moment, and what Bonnie was talking about with, her cast or with my cast, I can be like, oh, I wish I didn't have this thing on and it's a big drag, or I can just kind of go with it, just be present with what is. Would anyone like to speak to any of these other quotes today?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, great.
If an opportunity to do good comes to hand, do not let it go stale. That one spoke to me.
And why is that?
Well, maybe because I sometimes am the queen of procrastination. I see something and I go, well, I could do something about this, but yeah, I don't know. I can't make up my mind. And yeah, my friend needs some help, but do it, Carol. Get off your butt and do it. So, but because if you wait too long, you can maybe still do the thing. Let's say your friend calls and asks you for a favor, like, my car pooped out, and can you come and get me? Well, let me see. Let me check my schedule. Let me this and that and the other. And yeah, you might end up doing it, but you made your friend wait. You made your friend wonder. And there's something not pure about that then. Because your friend is like, I don't know, maybe Carol's not going to come through for me. Maybe I better call Joe and Mary and Phyllis and whatever and see if they're going to come through, because I can't count on Carol. And I think that's important, that your friends who need your help, who need your help, or who have helped you, can count on you. And I mean, as I say, I put things off. I weigh these things often too long. So not that I don't want to help, but I'm wondering, well, can I really help this person with that? And that's part of my own insecurity about, do I really have anything to offer? But I've learned a lot of lessons about helping and being helped over this pandemic. And I'm less likely to wait now than I was before. If somebody says, like my friend, when she got her COVID shot, some some months ago was very sick with it for one day. She had her fever was kind of high, but then she says, I'm supposed to monitor my fever, but she says, my thermometer, the battery died. I said, well, stay there. Be cool. I've got an extra thermometer you can use, you can have. And I said, you can return it to me whenever you're done. And I just drove down to her house 20 minutes or whatever it was and took her the thermometer. And I was so glad I did, because it was a small thing, but it made a difference. And then I felt better that she was being monitored. And if it became really serious, she would know to go to the urgent care. So anyway, that's just an example.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the world is built on small things like that. And I think, every like big, protest march, probably 10 small things has more impact than one big protest march. So those are important. I'm not like trying to poo-poo them, but I think that's wonderful.
Well,
Okay,
small things build on each other, I think.
And they build relationships too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Jody and then Hannah.
I was thinking that if the number 3 was the one that struck me, if you don't act on an opportunity quickly, you can just lose it. Never mind, it goes stale.
Yes.
And that's happened to me more than once. Like when you finally show up, they say, oh, well, we handled that a week ago or whatever it was. And there was a time when I lived in an ashram, and the wise, great Swami of the ashram had this saying. It was, do it now. And he abbreviated it to din. And he just walked around everyone saying, din, 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 do it now. And that sort of sunk in from, why not do it now? What's the upside?
It's a great teaching from the Swami. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jody. Hannah.
Yes, I agree with other people who've said something about timing, that timing is important, and that the small things matter too. I think to the point where we can either be feeling overwhelmed or feeling like doing some small thing doesn't matter. It's not a big enough thing since we can't do something large. And just kind of realizing that those small things can and do make a difference. And that if it's something that you can do, maybe not just you should do, but sort of why not do, doing in a joyful way. And then discovering that, oh, it did matter, like the way that seeing a flower matters, or, small things, but those things that, smiling instead of, staying neutral or whatever, that those things do, like you said, add up. But also just noticing them, looking for those opportunities to do something, including the small things.
Yeah, I love the way you said that, noticing and looking for their opportunities. That is wonderful. And they matter to other people, and they also change us. That's a central part of Mussar practice, is doing. It's about doing. It's not about thinking, wow, if I really should do this. But when I go and do it, it actually changes my soul. As it says in the Talmud, one mitzvah leads to another. It becomes that much easier to do the good thing the next time. Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, kind of something in action. There's somebody in our synagogue who died about a year ago, and one of the things I meant to do is to write him a note about how important he was in our synagogue, because he was a good counsel to our rabbi. And I didn't write a note. And a week ago, or couple of weeks ago, we were back doing services, and his 2 sons were there saying Kaddish for him, finishing up Kaddish soon. Well, yeah. And I said I needed to go over to them. And for one, there was a volunteer that worked with our program, amazing man, Catholic man, who worked for this man. And so we talked about him a little bit because I mentioned to him that he died. And so I was able to give good greetings from him to his sons, and also let them know that how important it was for me to notice the good counsel that he was. And so what I've learned over the years is that I often procrastinate, and it doesn't serve me well. People die before I could say, "Hi, I've noticed you." And so when I saw these two sons, I said I needed to go over there and redeem myself just a little bit.
Thank you for sharing that, Frank. We're all listening with an open heart. Karen.
So I have some favorite quotes, and I have one here that ties into the typical definition of enthusiasm by a writer I love. His name is Leo Buscaglia. Maybe some of you know of him or his books. And he writes, "I still get wildly enthusiastic about little things. I play with leaves, I skip down the street and run against the wind." And that just always brings to light an appreciation for the little things, for what we see, for what we do, for who crosses our path. So it ties right in to some of the quotes that you have shared as well, that we open our eyes, our ears, our hearts to be in the moment, to be aware and recognize, and then connect, wherever it is on the spectrum of enthusiasm. So I love this. It's just about paying attention to reality, which I forgot about, a phrase that I really love. And so yeah, I think that ties in really nicely here. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful, beautiful little snippet of poetry. Okay, so let's get ready to head into our breakout groups. And this week, what we're going to be talking about is when we come back, we'll look at some of the enthusiasm actions that you can take. And the second one is doing an enthusiasm inventory. And so the idea is with your partner or partners to just think about like what brings you energy, and maybe what drains your energy, or what are people that bring you energy, or what are people that drain your energy, and sort of look across your life a little bit. And so think about that, a chance to share confidentially with your partners, and maybe think about what's one thing that you can do a little more of or do a little less of that can help bring your enthusiasm into balance. Okay, so I'm going to copy these, stop the share, put it in the chat, and then I will open the breakout rooms. Okay, why am I not seeing those? Breakout rooms, there we go. Okay, let me take a peek at these. I'm just doing assessments. Okay, so these rooms are open. You have maybe like 6-7 minutes, something like that. So just click the join breakout room on your screen. And away you will go. And for people who have been live streaming, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to end the live stream now. Please feel free to come over to AmericanMussar.com and sign up for the email list So you can get the link to join us by Zoom if you wish, or you can go subscribe to the American Mussar YouTube channel so you can see the videos of future or past meetings. Thank you so much for being here.